On February 13th, millions of people experienced the same silent panic. Not because they forgot milk, but because they forgot to perform love properly. And somewhere deep down, they're afraid that if tomorrow isn't spectacular enough, something in their relationship might crack. That's fascinating, because the healthiest couples, they're usually asleep by 11 p.m. What Valentine's Day reveals about relationships is uncomfortable, and it's probably not what you think. Every year, February 13th feels like a deadline. You suddenly remember that reservation you didn't make, the gift you haven't bought, the surprise you haven't planned, and it feels urgent, not romantic, urgent, like love expires at midnight. But here's what's strange. The couples who last 10, 20, 30 years, they're rarely the ones scrambling. So what are they doing differently? In psychology, there's something called relationship maintenance. It's not glamorous. It doesn't trend. But it predicts longevity better than grand romantic gestures ever could. Researchers John Gottman and Robert Levenson studied couples for decades. They found something surprisingly simple. The couples who stayed together weren't the most dramatic. They were the most consistent. Gottman introduced a term called bids for connection. Tiny moments. Look at this. Can I tell you something? I had a weird day. Every bid is a micro test. Do you turn toward, do you ignore it, or do you dismiss it? The strongest couples turned toward each other again and again in ordinary moments. Not candlelit dinners, not violin music, just presence. Making coffee the way they like it, listening when they vent, asking, "Are you okay?" when something feels off. That's maintenance, that's love. Now here's the uncomfortable part. What happens when all of that energy gets compressed into one single day? Valentine's Day becomes a checkpoint, a test. And when love becomes a test, anxiety replaces affection. There's research on something called prescribed relationship behavior. When people feel pressured to act romantic on specific dates, satisfaction actually declines. Why? Because obligation kills authenticity. Your brain knows when you're acting out of genuine desire and when you're acting out of fear of failing. I want to do this for you feels completely different from I have to do this or I'm a bad partner. And that subtle difference matters. When romance becomes performance, intimacy shrinks. Ironically, the bigger the production, the easier it becomes to ignore the daily work. It's like going to the gym once a year and expecting transformation. Love doesn't build muscle that way, but it goes even deeper than obligation, because sometimes the pressure isn't about love, it's about insecurity. There's a theory in psychology called symbolic self-completion theory. When we feel insecure about an identity, like whether we're a good partner, we compensate with symbolic actions. Bigger gift, fancier dinner, longer Instagram caption. The grand gesture becomes proof. Proof to others, proof to ourselves. But here's the paradox. The bigger the performance, the more it can signal that something underneath feels uncertain. It's easier to stage a romantic event than it is to consistently show up emotionally. Performance is loud, security is quiet. Now add social media. Leon Festinger described social comparison theory back in 1954. We evaluate ourselves by comparing to others. Back then, that meant neighbors. Now, it means everyone. On Valentine's Day, comparison explodes. You scroll, candlelit dinners, surprise trips, luxury gifts, perfect captions. And even if you logically know it's curated, your subconscious absorbs it. It whispers, is my relationship enough? And what you don't see are the boring Tuesdays, the grocery runs, the quiet nights, the comfortable silence. That's where intimacy actually lives. But it doesn't photograph well, so we undervalue it. Research by Eli Finkel on self-expansion theory shows something important. Couples feel more satisfied when they grow together, when they share novelty, but novelty doesn't require extravagance. Trying a new recipe, walking a different route, learning something side by side. The brain cares about shared experience, not price tags. When Valentine's Day becomes a spectacle, we focus on optics instead of connection. It's like buying the most expensive cake without knowing their favorite flavor. Impressive, but slightly empty. Now let's talk about something rarely discussed: single people on Valentine's Day. Neuroscience shows that social exclusion activates the same brain regions as physical pain. So if February 14th makes someone feel left out, that pain is real. But here's what's fascinating. The pain isn't caused by being single, it's caused by expectation. If society didn't collectively elevate this one date, it would just be Thursday. The suffering isn't inherent, it's constructed, and that tells us something powerful. Meaning is assigned, not automatic. So maybe we've been thinking about this backwards. Instead of making one day incredibly important, what if we made every day slightly important? Psychologist Sara Algoe's research on gratitude shows that spontaneous appreciation strengthens bonds more than scheduled celebration. The key? Genuine, not performative, not pressured. Real appreciation requires attention, and attention requires effort. It's much easier to buy roses once a year than to consistently notice someone. True devotion shows up when you're tired, when it's inconvenient, when nobody else is watching. That's the unglamorous part, but that's the part that lasts. So maybe the healthiest move this Valentine's Day is simple. Make it optional. Celebrate if you want to. Don't if you don't. But don't let one day carry the weight of your entire relationship. Because if your relationship only feels special on February 14th, it might not be special, it might be scheduled. And love that depends on a deadline usually isn't love, it's performance. If this made you see relationships differently, you're going to like what's coming next. Because most of what we believe about love is shaped more by culture than psychology. Subscribe if you're curious about what else we've misunderstood.